I am not anti-rules, and I am not here to tell you that the government is evil or that you should go dark and bury a hard drive in the backyard. Exchanges and custodians have to be licensed. That got royal assent. Travel rule sounds like nothing. What it means is that when crypto moves between these regulated businesses, information about who is sending and who is receiving travels along with it. The tax office treats crypto as property, not as currency, as property. There is a problem in Australia that has been simmering for years, and it has still not been resolved. And it's the single most important thing for you to understand about why self-custody is not optional in my world. It is welcome to Rich and Regulated, where women learn to build wealth in alignment and flow. I'm Jessica Soul. For over a decade, I've helped women create the lives of their dreams, and here I'll share how I build wealth, fast-track results, and reveal money truths that will blow your mind. Let's get wealthy. They are not coming, they are already here. And if you do not understand what is happening with Australian crypto law right now, babe, you are already behind. And I want to say that again, not because I need to sound dramatic, but I want you to understand how serious this is. The thing you have been bracing for, the thing you assumed was maybe still a few years off, the regulation, the licensing, the rules, it's not on the horizon anymore. It's got royal assent. It is law. And most women in our world found out about it from a headline they half read and then scrolled past. Because honestly, who has time? Who has the energy to read a piece of financial legislation between school pickup and making dinner and the 17 other things that you're holding mentally every single day? So look, I took the time. I did as well as I could and I read it for you, and I'm going to walk you through what is actually happening in plain English with no fear-mongering and no tinfoil hats either. Just the facts and what they mean for you and the way you hold your wealth. So here's the thing, and I need you to understand this before we go any further. I am not anti-rules, and I am not here to tell you that the government is evil or that you should go dark and bury a hard drive in the backyard. That's not sovereignty. That is paranoia in a costume. What I'm here to do is make sure you are not the last to know in a game where being the last to know is expensive. So let's actually look at what passed. Regulation always arrives dressed as protection. But protection for who? Australia got the first real crypto law this year. Royal assent came through in April, and the headline piece, the exchanges and the custodians, the big platforms where most people buy and store their coins, they now need a license from the regulator, from ASIC. They have to be licensed the way other financial businesses are licensed. That's the spine of the whole thing. Now, on its face, that sounds reasonable, and in a lot of ways it is. We have all watched platforms collapse. We have watched people lose everything because some founder overseas was gambling with customer money behind some slick-looking app. So licensing is supported to stop that. Fine, genuinely, partly fine. But I want you to notice something, and this is the reframe for you today. Most people hear regulation and they hear safety. But what regulation actually buys almost every time is visibility. So think about what a license really does. To license something, you first have to be able to see it. You have to know who it is, holding what, where it is moving, and who is on the other end. The license is the doorway, but the thing that walks through the doorway is visibility. And once something becomes visible, it can be controlled. And once it can be controlled, it can be taxed. So protection, control, taxation. They tend to arrive in that order, wearing each other's clothes. And that's not a conspiracy. That is just how every financial system in history has worked. And so I'm not telling you something that's hidden. I'm literally telling you something boring that is sitting in plain sight. So let me give you 4 things that have actually changed or are changing. And I'm going to keep this concrete so you can hold it. Here are the 4 things actually happening with your crypto right now, and you need to know all 4. The first one is the licensing I just mentioned. Exchanges and custodians have to be licensed. That got royal assent, so it's law now, and it's being phased in over the next year or so with a transition period before it fully bites. But make no mistakes, it is locked in and it matters because it means the on-ramps and the off-ramps, the places you turn dollars into crypto and back again, are now formally inside of the system. They are watched, they report. The second thing, and this is the one I do not want you to miss, it's something called the travel rule, and it starts in July. Now, plain English, because travel rule sounds like nothing. What it means is that when crypto moves between these regulated businesses, information about who is sending and who is receiving travels along with it. The money moves, and a little file of who you are and who they are moves right alongside of it. This is what it is for. It's an anti-money laundering measure, and that is a real and legitimate purpose. But the practical effect of an ordinary woman just trying to hold some Bitcoin is that the visibility I keep talking about just went up a level. So more eyes, more records, more trail. The third thing is tax, and I'm going to be very careful here because I am not your accountant and I am never going to pretend to be. But here is what is simply true. The tax office treats crypto as property, not as currency, as property, which means when you sell it or swap it, one coin for another, or use it to buy something, that can be what they call a capital gains event, a taxable moment. And so many women genuinely do not know that swapping one coin for another, even without ever touching a dollar, can count. They think tax only happens when they cash out to their bank. That assumption is where people can get hurt. And there is a proposed change floating around about the 50% capital gains discount. The discount you can get on assets you have held for over a year. Now, I want to be precise that this is a proposal. It is not law. It is being talked about. Do not panic about it. Do not plan your life around it. Just know it is in the conversation because the people writing the rules are talking about your gains very specifically. The fourth thing is a kind of quiet good news. And I always want to give you the full picture, not just the parts that make a better reel. The Reserve Bank has looked at the idea of a retail digital dollar, a government digital currency that you and I could use day to day. And they have said that they do not see a case for it right now. So that particular thing, the programmable government money that a lot of people in our world are genuinely worried about, it doesn't seem to be on the table at the moment. I will tell you the truth when it is concerning, and I will tell you the truth when it's not. That one right now is not. So that is the landscape. Licensing, travel rule in July, crypto taxed as a property, and a proposal about the discount. And underneath all of it, one issue that nobody has actually solved. And here is the real reason that this matters more than the headlines are telling you. There is a problem in Australia that has been simmering for years, and it has still not been resolved. And it's the single most important thing for you to understand about why self-custody is not optional in my world. It is debanking. People in crypto getting their bank accounts closed, just closed. Not because they did anything wrong, but because the bank decided that someone who touches crypto is a risk and it does not want it on its books. And there is no clean fix for this yet. It is unresolved. And I want you to sit with that for a second. You know, you can be doing everything right, following every rule, running a legitimate business, and the bank that you do not own, that you have no control over, can decide one Tuesday morning that you're inconvenient and cut you off. And that, babe, is the whole case right there. That is why I talk about holding your own keys. And until you're sick of hearing me say it, right? Not your keys, not your coins. That line is not a slogan. It is the architecture of your freedom. So let me make that real with a picture because I don't want it to stay abstract for you. So when your crypto sits on an exchange, you do not actually hold it. You hold a promise. You hold an IOU on a screen. The exchange holds the real thing, and you are trusting that when you ask for it back, it will be there and that the door will still open for you. Self-custody just means you hold the asset yourself. You hold the keys. Nobody can close your account because you are the account, right? Just quickly, guys, if you're a woman who's earning well but still feels like your money isn't working for you, I can help. My Build Your Wealth portal is the perfect place to begin, and for less than $100 a month, I'll teach you the exact groundwork that has allowed me to create freedom for my family. Just hit the link in the show notes to connect into my community today. Now back to the episode. And here is the part that should make you exhale. Holding crypto is not banned. Self-custody is not banned. None of what passed makes it illegal for you to hold your own coins in your own wallet. The law went after the businesses in the middle, the exchanges, the custodians. It did not come for your right to hold what is yours. That door is still open, which means the move is available to you today. So I worked with a woman once. She ran a real business. She told me she did not want to learn self-custody because it felt too technical and a little bit scary. She would rather just leave it all with the big friendly app with the nice logo. And look, I understood where she was coming from completely because the app is designed to feel like a bank and the bank feels safe. But I asked her one question. I said, if that app froze your account tomorrow morning with no warning, no human to call, how long could you go? And honestly, she went quiet because she did not have the answer. And that quiet is the thing. That quiet is what we are working on. Self-custody is not a loophole. It is the whole point. Now, I want to widen this out because there is a fear sitting underneath this whole conversation that nobody actually names. It's not really regulation that keeps you frozen. It's this one question. What happens when I sell? How much will they take? Will I get it wrong and end up with a bill I cannot pay? And babe, look, I get it. That fear is real and you should have a good accountant, some professionals in your corner that help you with your own situation because I am not here to give you tax advice and I never will. But let me show you something most people are never told. So many of the people I know who hold Bitcoin, for example, and hold it properly for the long game are not actually planning to sell it, ever. Most serious Bitcoin holders are not asking, when do I sell? They are asking, how do I never have to? Because the moment you sell, in most places, you have triggered a taxable event. Like we just talked about. You have turned the thing into dollars and now it is countable and it is taxable. But there is another way that people can use these assets, and this is how the wealthy have treated assets for generations. They don't sell, they borrow against them. They use the asset as collateral, take a loan against its value and put cash in their hands without ever letting go of the asset itself. And generally speaking, borrowing against an asset is not the same as selling it. I'm speaking generally here, not about your situation. So take that to a qualified accountant before you do a single thing. But I want you to understand the shape of it because very few people teach women this. The rich have been borrowing against their assets instead of selling them for a very long time. The only thing that has changed is that now you can do it too. And that brings me to a word that you have probably heard thrown around, maybe felt a little intimidated by, DeFi, decentralized finance. So let me make it simple because it isn't as complicated as they make it sound. Your whole life, if you wanted to do anything with money, borrow, lend, earn, swap one thing for another, you had to go through a middleman, a bank, a broker, someone who sat in the middle, took their cut and held all the control. DeFi is doing those same things, but on decentralized platforms where the middleman is replaced by code and you keep control of your own assets the whole way through. DeFi is just the bank's job done without the bank. You keep control and your keys the whole time. Now, I want to be really clear about something because I will never let you walk away from this with the wrong idea in your head. DeFi is not a hiding place. None of this is 100% invisible because it just isn't. These are public networks. The transactions are out there. They can be traced and your obligations are still going to be your obligations. This is not about disappearing or dodging what you owe. It's about doing legitimate things, borrowing, lending, growing your wealth without handing a single company total control over your money and your access to it. You still play by the rules. You just stop needing their permission to live your own financial life. So get your structure right, receive proper advice, and stay clean. Sovereignty and integrity are not opposites. They walk together always. Now, I can hear objection, right? Because I have heard it 100 times and it's a fair one. So let us deal with this head on. You might be thinking, Jess, isn't this a bit paranoid or worse? Isn't this really just about dodging tax man, finding a back door, getting away with something? And if that is the voice in your head, I want you to hear me really clearly because this is the heart of the whole episode. No, this is the opposite of that. You do not need to be afraid of the rules. You need to stop being asleep while they are being written. Sovereignty is not evasion. So let me say that as plainly as I can. The woman who hides, who buries it, who pretends that she made no gains and hopes nobody looks, she is not sovereign. She's just scared with extra steps. She has handed her power over to fear instead of handing it to a bank. And that is not an upgrade. Real sovereignty is the woman who knows the rules cold and who holds her own keys because she understands the difference between paying what the law requires and surrendering control of her own assets to a company that can lock her out. So the takeaway is pay what you owe, hold what is yours. Those two things are not in conflict. They never were. The system would love you to believe that following the rules means giving up control, that the only way to be compliant is to be visible and dependent and at someone else's mercy. And that is the trick. You can be fully above board and fully self-sovereign at the same time. Informed, not evasive. Compliant, not captured. The woman who knows the rules cold is the most dangerous woman in the room. And here is the bit nobody says out loud about why they would rather you stay confused. A confused woman at the end of the day is a controllable woman. A woman who does not understand how her gains are taxed will overpay out of fear or underpay out of ignorance. And either way, she's easy to manage. But a woman who has read the rules, who has a good accountant, who keeps her own keys and keeps her own records, that woman cannot be pushed around. You become the most boring possible target. And boring in this game is power. Thirdly, visibility is the product. You were never the customer. You were the inventory. I need you to really hear that one. For a very long time in the financial system, you thought you were the customer being served. You were actually the inventory being counted. The reframe of this entire episode is just that. The rules are not mainly about keeping you safe. They are about keeping you seen. And being seen is fine as long as you choose it, as long as you understand it, as long as you are not asleep while it happens to you. So what do you actually do with all of this? Because I never want to hand you a problem without handing you a move. If you just take one thing from this episode, take this. Know your own situation, get proper advice, and refuse to be asleep while the rules are being written. That is your takeaway for this week, and I want you to make it concrete. 3 small things and none of them are scary. Know your situation. Actually look at what you are holding and where it is held. On an exchange, in your own wallet, spread across a few places you have honestly half forgotten about. Just become clear-eyed about your own position. You cannot defend a castle you haven't even walked through. Get proper advice, and I mean real advice. A qualified accountant who understands crypto. Not me, not a podcast, not a forum, not a confident man at some family barbecue. The tax stuff is specific to you, your circumstances, your setup, and it is genuinely worth paying someone to get good advice. I will never give you tax advice on this show, and you should be suspicious of anyone who does, right? And third, get educated on holding your own keys, not as a reckless leap, but as a skill you build slowly and properly, the way you would learn anything that matters. Because the option is still open, and the women who learn it now calmly, before they have to, are the ones who will never have that quiet, panicked moment when the friendly app stops being so friendly. That is the work, and honestly, it is the same work that has always been. Discipline, records, know your numbers, hold your own, boring on the outside, freeing on the inside. And if you want the full map of this, the whole playbook for getting your financial life out of a system that was never really built for you and into your own hands, that is exactly what I built Unbanked for. It is my financial sovereignty playbook, and it walks you through this properly step by step, without the fear, without the jargon. The word is unbanked. Go grab it. Babe, the rules are being written right now this year in rooms that you and I are not in. You do not get to vote in those rooms, but you absolutely get to decide whether you walk into the next decade informed and sovereign, or asleep and surprised. Every choice is a decision. Even in not choosing, you are still choosing. If you've gotten value from today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave a 5-star review. And if you're ready for more support in building regulated wealth strategies, check out the link in the show notes. Have a beautiful day.